you look at the top level of the game or even lower than that in this country, I think it's hard if you're not able to compete physically. I think you have to be really at the top of your game in other aspects, technically, tactically, mentally, to make up for those areas that you might be lacking in.
What would make you take a risk on a player that's in a lower division?
It's obviously a risk, but I think you get a feel for their mentality. So their mentality is going to go across whatever level they're at, so that doesn't change.
What are, from step 6 to 3, other than being fit and technical ability, what are things that you don't think about that change?
The pressure from going at a club that probably doesn't have as many eyes on it, and that's the same at every level, but if you go from step 6 to step 3, there's going to be a lot more eyes on it, there's going to be more fans, there's going to be more pressure from the board, expectation. I think probably understanding that there's more egos at step 3 because there's players that have played at a higher level. With your attitude, with your work rate, as a minimum, he's going to work with us, he's going to do everything when he's on that pitch, he's going to give 100%, so I can trust him.
What is the biggest mistake that young players make at trials?
Trying to over-impress. You should definitely, if you feel ready, take yourself out your comfort zone and go to a different country. I would definitely say it's something I would recommend, but I think you need to make sure you're prepared and you feel ready and understand that it will be difficult at times. I had experiences where I thought, I'm not sure it's worth it, and that's probably why I stopped playing.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Select Generation podcast. Today is a really exciting episode. I'm buzzing to be speaking today to Pat Suraci, co-manager of Poole Town. The podcast that we have been doing over the past, 3 years now. I think we've had a bit of a journey with the podcast in terms of where we started to where we are now. And I'm interested about today's episode because Pat is the co-manager of a professional, semi-professional team in England. And I went to the US when I was 18 to go on a soccer scholarship to go and play in the NCAA. And people always ask me about what football in England is like. And obviously we have the team now in Bournemouth, where players are competing to go on to the next level, whether that be semi-professional, professional, go back to the NCAA, with more experience, but just really understand English football. And I think if we can speak to Pat about his experience, what he's been through, his kind of lessons and perspective, I think that is going to be really interesting for the people listening to this that are, okay, I want to go play football in England. Like, what does that mean? Like, what, like, you see, watch the Premier League on TV, but to watch like lower league football in England where players like do that as their job, like what does that really mean? So first off, Pat, I just want to say thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited
to discuss, yeah.
So for someone that's listening to this, that is like, Pat Suraci, manager of Poole Town, like who are Poole Town? Who is Pat? Like, what's your story? Who are you?
Yeah, so Poole Town it's a non-league club. It's a local club to the area of Poole and Bournemouth. Obviously, there's a lot of different levels in England. You got Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two. Outside of that is what you call non-league. So we're in step 3 of non-league. So yeah, what is it? The 7th tier, which, funnily enough, I think to a lot of people sounds like a very low level, but I think it's quite unique in England where up to or down to our level and even below, you'll get a lot of players that have played as pros. I've managed some players that have played in the Championship and the second division who are now playing this level. And yeah, I don't know many other countries where you can go down to the 7th division and players are getting paid. You know, I know some players that were getting paid £1,000 a week in our league. So it is quite unique in that way. And then for myself, I'm someone who's very passionate about football. I've been involved in football ever since I can remember. My dad is a bit of a mad Brazilian. He loves football. He always instilled that in me. You know, my family, my brother's heavily involved in football. So it's something I've always done growing up. I played up until I was 23. So what was that, 4 or 5 years ago? I dislocated my knee. I was coaching at the time, but I stopped playing. Ever since then, I've really gone into management alongside a good friend of mine, Joe Lee, who we played together at Southampton in the academy when we were younger, and we played at a few non-league clubs together. And yeah, we found ourselves at Poole Town now.
So I always talk to a lot of people and they say like, oh, I started playing football from when I can remember. And I feel like in England, like football is a religion. Like everyone plays football, right? What was your experience growing up in football like? Like, were you always at a top academy level? You wanted to be a pro? Did you just play with your friends for fun? Did you play for your school? Like, what was your kind of childhood in football like?
Yeah, it was. I started off. So again, my dad started a team at my local town, which is Gosport, which is it's about an hour from here. He started a club, and from under sixes, I played with a lot of my friends who I went to school with, infant school and primary school, and I played a couple of years there, and eventually I got picked up by Southampton in the academy, and I was there from 9 until about 15. So my childhood was quite intense, to be honest, in terms of a footballing a footballing childhood. It was, 3, 4 times training a week. It was games every week, maybe twice a week from such a young age. Um, so I wouldn't say it was necessarily a relaxed childhood. It was very intense. It was very serious, and I think, like you said, I think in this country, people take football very, very seriously. It's it's what a lot of people put their time and effort into, and certainly I did from a young age. And
Mm.
yeah, there was obviously an element of enjoyment, but I would say there was probably an element of, as I've got older, I felt like I missed out on a lot of things. But having said that, I think if I hadn't had that grounding and discipline in the sport, in football, I probably wouldn't be where I am today,
Yeah.
at my age.
So, you started at Southampton. How old were you?
I was 9.
How Because a lot of people would be like, okay, he went at night. Like, how does Southampton, were they Premier League Championship,
They
or
were Championship at the time, and then went to the Premier League.
how did you get found? Like, was there someone just at your game? It was like, oh, come play for us. Was it like you went to a trial? Like, how does it?
Yeah, it was a local tournament. So it was like an under 8 tournament in Portsmouth, and there's always scouts at those type of tournaments, especially from a young age. And there was a scout there, um, who obviously liked what he saw, and then I went for an initial trial where there was 30 kids from around the local area going to a trial, and then I got a phone call on the way back saying, look, we want you to come in for a 6-week trial. So it was a bit of a process. Did 6 weeks on trial there, and eventually got signed. And yeah, it was an interesting time. I've made a lot of friends from there. There's a few now playing professionally. A couple of sort of, one in the Premier League, a couple in Championship and League One that were in my team when I was younger. So it's also interesting to see that everyone's taken
Mm.
different paths from top level down to lower
So,
levels.
so you're there from that age until you're 15.
Till I was 15, yeah.
What happens when you're 15? Was it you quit or they released
I,
you? What?
I got released. I was physically, I wasn't quite there, and I think many people in this country will know that it is quite a physical country in terms of football. There's a lot of emphasis placed on physicality, and I probably wasn't the quickest or the biggest. My strengths were in my technical ability and my football intelligence, but I was slightly behind. And I think if you look at the top level of the game, or even lower than that in this country, I think it's hard if you're not able to compete physically. I think you have to be really at the top of your game in other aspects, technically, tactically, mentally, to make up for those areas that you might be lacking in.
Mm. So what happens when you get released? Are you like, I'm going to quit football? Are you like, I'm going to go find another team? Like, what happens?
Yes, it was a difficult one. I think, at that age, at 15, you're in year 11, and there's a lot of things going on in your life, and you almost feel a bit embarrassed to tell people that you've been released. And because it's become your identity, you're the guy at school who plays for Southampton. There's not many of them, and becomes that's your personality, is you're the football player, and all of a sudden you're not there anymore. So I went to play for Eastleigh, which is their National League club, but it was sort of under 16s, under 18s. I played there a couple of years, and then from then I went and played in Belgium, which I'm sure we'll touch on a bit. And
Talk to us about that. What happens? You go from playing non. So when you went to Eastleigh, was your emphasis on, okay, I want to be the best academy player and make it to the first team? Were you there like, okay, this is a step back. I just want to play for fun now? Like, what was your mission vision when you were playing for Eastleigh?
yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. I think it was a bit like you say. It was almost try and have a bit more fun, because I'd come out of, like I said, a really serious environment, and it was a bit of an easier level. So it was, how can I really enjoy this? I'm playing with some friends, I guess, that I really enjoyed with. And at the same time, I went to Portsmouth College, so I was doing both at the time. I was doing some education. I was doing the under-18s at Eastleigh, and I would probably look back on it, especially the first year. I think it was in 2014 was probably the most enjoyable year of my life in football terms. Probably because I was quite free. I was playing without too much restriction, without too much pressure.
Probably you were one of the better players as well.
Yeah, I think so at that time, and I think it allowed me to really flourish because um, the way I play was with a lot of freedom, a lot of creativity, and I didn't feel like I had too much pressure on me, and that is probably why I ended up moving on
So
to
how does
professional
the
level.
Belgium offer come about?
Yeah, it's a bit of a random one. So my brother was the director of the football program at Portsmouth College at the time, and he had a contact in Belgium, Niels Koppen, who I think he's either working at Genk or he was the head of recruitment at Rangers. But at this time, he was working at Lommel, and our college team went on a tournament at this place Lommel, and there was a lot of different professional clubs there. And funnily enough, we ended up winning the tournament, and I had a really good tournament. I scored two in the final, and they invited me on a week's trial. So I went a bit later on. I went with my dad over there for a week, stayed over, played in a game, played in some training sessions, and they offered me a contract there.
Wow, how was that?
Yeah, it was.
Because you mentioned there you were at Portsmouth College, so you were playing football and you were studying. Were you in your mind thinking, I'm not going to be a pro, I want to have education to fall back on? Were you thinking, I'm 100% to be a pro? Like,
In my head, football was always what I was going to do. It was almost like this is a stopgap for me to go and push on to become a pro. I didn't necessarily see it as, you know, I think you're naive sometimes at those ages just to think that you're going to make it as such, and everyone wants to make it. And the education side wasn't really. It was more of I need to do this at this time in my life, but it's a bit of a means to an end. But yeah, the Belgium thing came about, and it was a really strange
did
development.
you like it out there?
Um, I enjoyed the different culture, the different type of football, the different way of everything. It was tough because I just turned 18. I went out there on my own, but I think to have that experience to draw back on definitely helped me grow as a person, as a football player, but I think mainly as a person, it matures you quite quickly, I think, to go and live in a different country.
Interesting, because I want to touch on this because a lot of our players, for example, are 18 and they're going abroad, right? And there's a lot of parents that are, oh, but I'm not sure if that's going to be good for my son or out of his comfort zone. And we talk to a lot of players. We just had a couple of lads on that were talking about like you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable and do things that are going to push you, right? And have these life experiences. I went to the US when I was 18, and I think helped me as a footballer, yes, but more as a person, like meeting people, making connections, learning how to cook, do your laundry, like little things, being away from your family and your friends, meeting new people. What was your process like of going out of there, or your mindset? Were you like, is it easy for you to make friends? Were you worried? Did they like help you with your housing, or did you have to figure out everything yourself? Like logistically, going from Gosport to Belgium, obviously you're going there for football, but like the other stuff like housing, insurance, visa, or
There was a lot of help from the club. I mean, the club now, Lommel SK, they're part of the City Group, so they're quite a well-renowned club in Belgium. But I think it was a bit tough.
why was it tough?
I drove a Vauxhall Corsa from Gosport to Lommel.
Right.
Like I went with my girlfriend, but we drove over the boat from Dover through France and Netherlands all the way up to Belgium, and it's just silly things like my phone died about an hour away, which had the maps on it. So there was about a half hour where we had no clue where we were going in a completely different country. So that was mental. They sorted out housing for me, but it was a bit of a weird situation. The woman I was living with was nice, but a bit funny. She locked like the downstairs living room, so I couldn't really get in there. Like my room was basically everything. It was my shower, it was where I cooked, it was where I cleaned. So it was tough. The club had originally sorted out language lessons for me, and the language was hard because it was Flemish. So
Really?
yeah, so it was, and there was some that spoke French,
French,
some
some
spoke
German.
Dutch, yeah, all sorts. So they were supposed to sort language lessons, but there was an issue where it didn't quite happen. So for the first 6 months, I couldn't really communicate with anyone that didn't speak
How was
English.
that?
That was really tough.
Why?
Just because, like, you go into training, and a big part of any football team or any sport is the socialization. It's getting to know people, it's connecting, it's
The
the
band in the locker
relationships.
room.
Yeah, of course. And you don't really have that. And then, the coach he's saying things at half time before the game in training, and I'm saying to the guy next to me, what's he just said?
Were you a starter there? Were you getting minutes and playing?
So I was playing in the B team, so it was Lommel B team, and I was playing every game. I'd in the first 12 games, I'd scored like 8, got quite a few assists, and I made a couple of appearances in the first team, like very brief, like 10 minutes. But I felt like I was really close to sort of breaking through. And actually, after I think it was 8 months, I decided to come back home because I found it difficult. And probably what you're saying there is, I think you should definitely, if you feel ready, take yourself out your comfort zone and go to a different country. I would definitely say it's something I would recommend, but I think you need to make sure you're prepared and you feel ready, and understand that it will be difficult at times. I think the difficulty for me was I didn't speak the language. I didn't live with anyone else. The difference is if you go to a country where you speak the same language, you can move in with you make new friends. I think it's a lot easier. But to go to Belgium, where it was a small town, not everyone spoke English. It was it was hard.
So what was the point where you decided, okay, I'm going home? Was it a game? Was it a training session? Was it a feeling?
It was there was a bit of a build up with the coach that I had. He's an excellent coach. I think he's working at Genk now, which is a big club in Belgium, and he was sort of hounding me to take less touches. And at that time, I used to pride myself on being a bit of a dribbler and things, and I used to find it really difficult because he was really demanding of me. And I think it was for the right reasons, because he wanted me to do well, but I probably at the time didn't see it that way. And it got to the point where I thought, I'm coming home from training, I'm not socializing with anyone, I'm not living with anyone, I don't see anyone. So we'd finish training at 3 o'clock and I'd be on my own until the next day. And then even at training, I'll have minimal relationships, communication with people because I don't speak the language. And it just became very lonely. And then I think when your coach is demanding from you so much, you probably need the support rather than the challenge at that point, just for everything that's going on outside of football. And that's maybe where, if I'm older now, I would communicate that to the coach, or I'd make sure I made more of an effort to really try and immerse myself in the culture and force my way to learn the language, even if I had to sort it out myself.
So what happens after that? You come back to Gosport.
So I came back to Gosport. I signed for Gosport Borough first team, which is the same level as the club Poole I'm managing at now. But actually, they were a league above at the time. They're in the National League South. I was just 18 at the time, so I think it's a fairly high level for an 18-year-old. The National League South, like you'll see a lot of championship 18-year-olds going on loan to that sort of level. And it was difficult. It was so physical. So that was my then first experience of men's football in England. And yeah, it was a bit of a rude awakening to the different type of football that you experience in England from what I had at Belgium.
So, and how long were you at Gosport for?
So I was at Gosport for that year. I was there for 6 months, and then I then signed for a club called Bognor Regis Town, who were in the same league, so the National League South. I was there I was there for the season, but I went on loan to Weymouth, and then funnily enough ended up back at Gosport towards the back end of the season. So I was just trying to find my feet at that age, I think, and had some enjoyable experiences. I met different people at those different clubs, and I think then I ended up staying at Gosport for a few years as a player, and that's where.
So you're bouncing around all these clubs and were you trying to be a professional when you came back from Belgium?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I think you still have in your mind that you're going to make it pro, and
But what does pro mean? Because to you, pro might mean Premier League Championship. To someone else, pro might mean a professional mean. Or what did it mean to you at that age? Were you trying to play in the Premier League, or were you trying to?
Yeah, I think again, it's probably a little bit of delusion, but you think, been at Southampton, they're a Championship Premier League club, you think I'm going to play in the first team. And your aspirations are set that high, but you realise now that being a professional can be down to step 5 to National League, and you can earn a lot of money. You can earn a full-time wage playing at the level that I'm managing now. Like I said to you, there's numerous players that were being paid 52 weeks a year, £1,000 a week. So it's £52,000 per year, which is a pretty decent wage in the UK.
So what do you have to do to get to that level? Like in terms of like what are the players like at that level? Are they physical? Are they technical?
Which level?
Around National League, like when you were 18, 19 playing at Gosport on that level?
I think a big thing is physically you'll see is that they're usually quite big. They can usually move well. But I think at any level, especially if you are paid and you are professional, technically you have to be good. You have to be able to deal with the ball. You have to make good decisions. And I think probably it's a bit of an understanding of game craft. How do you win a game? Because if you're on the pitch and you make a poor decision that leads to a goal, you might find yourself out the team. So I think being able to stand up in any game at that level, make good decisions, know when to manage the game. But yeah, I think a big thing definitely I found was the physicality. I think being able to be strong enough, be quick enough, be sharp enough is one big thing.
So you switched from playing into management. Did you feel like after you played, you had to be involved in football and that was the way to go? Or like, what was like, okay, I want to be a manager?
Well, my brother's a big inspiration, I would say, for my managerial coaching career. He's done that since he was 17. He was head of coaching at Bournemouth or has been head of coaching Bournemouth in the academy for 11 years. And he's someone I'm very close to. And I think I watched him and thought, well, if I can't play, this is probably the next best thing. And so our first taste of it, if you like, was myself and Joe took the under-18s at Gosport whilst we were still playing there. And we were only 19 at the time. So we were one or 2 years older than the players that we were coaching. And I think we quickly found a love for it. We found a passion for it. I think when you're doing it, it's like, oh, actually, I like a bit of this.
So what did you like?
I liked the feeling of being able to affect other people, to affect other people positively, to encourage certain things that I felt like as a player I didn't get, to give them a positive experience of playing, because I had a lot of negative experiences as a player. And it was almost like, well, how can I make sure that whoever I'm responsible for or I'm working with, I can give them the best environment, the best experience where they actually love football.
So what do you like about, and is that same now? Like when you're a football manager now, like what's your why?
Definitely, I think the drive for me is making people enjoy being involved in football, whether that's players, whether that's the fans, whether that's staff. It's how do you create an environment where people want to be there? They're looking forward to training. They're looking forward to games. I think it's giving people a positive experience of the game, because I used to hate when I hear people saying that I fell out of love with the game, and it's probably the same for me, because I had experiences where I thought, I'm not sure it's worth it. And that's probably why I stopped playing, because I had a knee injury, but I could have tried to keep playing. But I just thought, look, I'm going to stop it there because it's not worth the time I'm giving it.
It's interesting. We talk about the love for the game. I haven't really thought about this recently, but I feel like here in England, people kind of play football and they just keep playing football and they keep playing until they're 30, 35 and they physically can't, but they always stay playing football. Whereas like for the last 7, 8 years, I've been in the US, and you kind of go to university, you finish playing at 21, 22, and then you completely stop playing football because you want to work and earn money, and football's kind of like a side thing. But here it feels like people like have to be involved in football. Does it feel like that in the locker room? Like people Because I'm sure at your level, people are there. Obviously, you get paid and etc. But they have other jobs and they have a family. Why do you think your players turn up to training?
I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think there's definitely people feel like they have to do it because, like I said to you, it's almost been an identity for some people. It's like, I play football, I'm a football player, I'm involved in football, and it's almost like, well, what else am I going to do? I think from my experiences, there's obviously money involved as well. People, they can pay off their mortgages with the money that they get from football. They can pay their bills. So there's a big thing there as well, even if they've got a job alongside of it. And then I think it's the sensation of feeling part of a team, feeling
Community.
valued. Exactly. I think you don't, it's funny, like on a Saturday, if we don't have a game, I'll go and, you go shopping with the missus or whatever, and you sort of think, what does everyone do on a Saturday? Like, I couldn't imagine my Saturdays without football. And I think there's a feeling of that as well. It's almost like a bit of a drug where I want to keep going back for it because, I've got this team. I enjoy being in this environment. I enjoy winning games with this team. And I think there's a big, big thing about that as well.
How do you build a good team culture?
I think it's your everyday habits, your body language, the way you communicate with people. I think for me, it's always, what is your behavior towards everyone? What is your behavior towards the staff, towards any fans that you meet, towards the players? And I would generally, I always think about being quite empathetic with people to understand what is it that they're going through in their lives and make sure you connect with them. I think, when people have got problems, it's making sure you listen to that and being very open to. I'll give you an example. If someone said to me, look, I've got a bit of a problem at home, I might not be able to come into training today, rather than being like, no, you've got to come into training. It's more like, okay, if you need to take the night off, no worries. We'll see you when you next come back in. And then when they come back in, it's asking them, is everything okay? And I think making people feel like you care about them, making people feel loved, so that there's a sense of that belonging for everyone in that culture, in that environment. And then a big thing is positivity. I think people want to come in, they want to feel positivity, they want to enjoy the environment. Yeah, we got demand, and yeah, we got to be serious at times, but also I think there's got to be a big element of, we're here to have fun and enjoy what we're doing.
How important is player recruitment in building a culture?
Well, I think player recruitment is the most important thing out of anything, in all honesty.
Why?
Because I think if you talk about your culture, if you got the wrong characters, you could have the best team, but I'm not sure it quite works. And then obviously the ability of the players is another kettle of fish. But I think a culture is only as good as the people within that culture. So I think when we recruit players, it's very much, we'll always ask for a character reference. So for someone that knows that player, well, what's he like as a person? Does he work hard? Is he good around the changing rooms? What is his attitude like? Is he positive?
Yeah. So talking about player recruitment, because there'll be a lot of people listening to this that will be like, oh, I'd love to play for Pat. I wonder how he recruits. You need a striker. How do you find a striker?
Well, I think we obviously have an understanding locally, and well, more than locally, about the players that are around there. But generally, you'll have an idea of the type of striker you want. But if there's an idea of what we want, it's very much, well, what is the attitude of this striker? Is he gonna? So, for example, we would like to be quite high pressing. So, is he gonna press? Does he have the mentality to press? Is he gonna keep doing it? Is he gonna work hard? Is he gonna do the things we ask of him? Because ultimately, we're gonna try and play in a certain way. So he's got to fit that. Is he gonna add to the group in the changing room socially? So I think there's a lot of things that are actually outside of the player's ability, because that is obvious that we need to see an ability.
And how do you know if he's going to make a difference at your level? How do you know if, okay, I need a striker, I know this player is going to score me 10 goals this year? How do you judge that?
Well, obviously you'll see, we'll look for, if we're looking for a player, well, what's his track record? Where's he been?
So you're looking at his CV.
We'll look at his CV. We'll look at where has he been? Has he scored goals? at those clubs, do we know people? Can we get a reference for them? We watch clips. There might be someone that tells us, right, he's good at this, this, and this. Okay, can you send me a video so I can have a look? So I think it's trying to get a real picture of that player from different sources, different ways of doing it. I want to watch him. I want to hear about him, things like that.
Let's say that there's a player that's playing step 8, step 7, 6, 5. That's not, because if a striker is banging goals at your level, it's pretty obvious to know that he's going to probably do it at your level. What would make you take a risk on a player that's in a lower division?
Well, funny you say that, because myself and Joe, we managed Petersfield in our first managerial job in men's football at step 6. And then we took 3 of those players to step 3 at Gosport when we first joined at Gosport. And it's obviously a risk, but I think you get a feel for their mentality. So their mentality is going to go across whatever level they're at. So that doesn't change. Can they cope physically? So can they make the jump up? Are they agile enough? Are they, what is their, are they strong? Are they quick? Whatever, they need to have one probably outstanding physical attribute. And then, you know them as a person. So you think, right, well, that person will probably go up a couple of levels and deal with the pressure of it, deal with the, we're starting to get 1,000 fans now. At step 6, we had 100. Now we got 1,000.
What are the differences in, that's interesting you say that, because a lot of players would be like, okay, I'm going to jump from step 6 to 3. I got to get fit. I got to get in the gym. Technically, I think I'm at the level. But what are the other things that you might not think about? Like, I don't know. Like, what are from step 6 to 3, other than being fit and technical ability? What are things that you don't think about that change?
Yeah, so I think like I just mentioned, the pressure from going at a club that probably doesn't have as many eyes on it, and that's the same at every level. But if you go from step 6 to step 3, there's going to be a lot more eyes on it. There's going to be more fans. There's going to be more pressure from the board, expectation. I think probably understanding that there's more egos at step 3, because there's players that have played at a higher level. So you're then going into a changing room of players that are of better ability, probably think of themselves as a little bit better, and you have to find your way in that changing room, coming from a lower league, and you have to earn a bit of respect. And I think you do that with your attitude, with your work rate as a minimum. Right, he's going to work with us. He's going to do everything when he's on that pitch. He's going to give 100%, so I can trust him. And then you start to show your ability, and I think that's important.
So let's say that I'm a player playing step 5, step 4, and I want to play step 3, step 2 championship. How do I create a network to give myself trials or opportunities? Do I get an agent? Do I Instagram the DM page? Do I Instagram DM the coach? If I want to go from step 5, step 4, I'm good enough, but no one knows about me. How do I get in front of those coaches?
I think the first thing you need to do is, before any of that, is play regularly. Play regularly at whatever level. Do well at that level, because people will talk. And then once you feel like, I've played 30 games at step 5, step 4, I've done well. I think it is putting yourself out there. We've had players that have said, in pre-season, look, you find the manager's number at step 3 and say, look, can I come in pre-season? Here's my clips. I wouldn't say that, anyone, or from my experience, especially myself, is I wouldn't turn down the opportunity because they're at step 5 or step 6. If you feel like you're good enough, we'll give you an opportunity in pre-season. Come and train with us, show that you're good enough. Send me your clips. If I like what I see, then definitely. I think we've had players since we've been managing at step 3 that have come from step 5, step 6, and you think, okay, are they going to do it? Are they going to make jump up? We'll give them a chance. And we've had a number of players who've come from those levels and have shown they're good enough. And I'll give you an example of someone we had at Gosport Borough who was playing step 5, and he wasn't even playing regularly at step 5. He messaged me and just said, can I come into training? He worked so hard. He earned his way into the team. And then he was one of our top goal scorers, and then went to step 2.
What is, when you have a player on trial as a coach, what are some things that you like? For example, let's say, Pat, I'm going to come into training with you next week. I'm going to come in for pre-season. What do I need to do for you to sign me, other than be a good player?
Yeah. Again, I know it sounds a bit broken record. I think I'm looking at your body language, your attitude, your habits. Are you reacting well to everything? When you lose the ball, are you reacting well? When we win the ball back, are you reacting well? Um, are you willing to show real desire? So, I'll give you an example. If you're a defender, are you willing to put your body in front of the ball? If you're an attacker and I want you to press, are you going to keep running? Are you going to react well so the press is broken? Are you going to recover behind the ball? Are you going to be positive? Is your attitude going to show someone that is willing to graft? Because I think it is a graft at any level of football. And that for me is a minimum. I think I want to see someone with humility who wants to learn, who wants to work really, really hard, because ultimately to get into any team and stay in any team, you've got to do the minimum, which I think that is.
So, Pat, in terms of when you're setting up for a game, how important is the tactical aspect of setting up for a game in terms of the opposition? Like at the level, are you doing a lot of video analysis? Are you doing a lot of scouting reports? Are you just kind of picking the best 11 that you feel are the best? Like how much tactical work goes into games?
Yeah, quite a lot, to be honest. We've got two analysts, so we'll usually watch 4 or 5 of the opposition's games.
Really?
Yeah,
Before a game?
yeah.
Wow.
So we'll have quite a few games. Then um, one of the analysts will put together a scout report, quite a comprehensive scout report on the opposition. We'll do at least once a week. We'll do an analysis session with all the players to might show our own stuff, what we've been doing well, what we could do better, but definitely just give them an idea of what the opposition are doing, just so we know how we're setting up against what they're doing. But I think before that, before all the tactical things, in my opinion, the culture and environment you set, the principles that you set in your team are the most important thing before tactics. I think everyone has to feel.
Buy in.
Yeah, I think it's the most important, that the environment needs to feel positive. I think like I said to you earlier, everyone wants to be there. Everyone's driving towards the same mission, the same goal. And then I think once you've got that right, and there's a feeling of everyone's here to work with each other, no one's here to work against each other, then you can start looking at the tactical bits.
What advice would you give to a young coach starting out?
Coach as much as you can, get as much experience as you can. That's what I did. I was taking, like 8 sessions, 2, 3 games per week for years. Just keep getting out there, learn, reflect, go and search for knowledge. Anyone that you know, anyone that you can contact, go and ask if you can watch their sessions, ask them questions.
What types of questions should you ask?
I think you just need to be asking, why are you doing that? What's the intention behind that? Get an idea of, what is it? Or it might be, what do you think it takes to be a top coach? What is it that you do that you think is really important? But I always think the intention behind something is really important. So when I coach, it's very much, what is my clear intention? And then if I understand that, everything I do, all my behaviors go towards that intention.
I don't think people understand how much like a manager thinks about a game. And like I speak to a lot of managers and they're talking about like, I couldn't sleep at night because I got the substitution wrong, or I picked the wrong player in this position, or we shouldn't have pressed this way. What are and you might look at a manager at step 3, step 2, step 1, and you think, oh, he has such an amazing life. He gets to coach football every day, go to training, probably gets paid a load of money, drives a really nice car. What are the negative? And I ask a lot of players this, like, what are the negatives of being a player? And they talk about like you miss holidays and you miss with your girlfriend, or you miss family events, or you got a training you don't want to, like it's a job. But I haven't asked a manager this before. What are the negatives of being a football manager that people don't think about?
I think the reality is that it takes a lot of time and effort, because you've got to deal with everything. It's not, as a player, it's very individual. I can turn up. Sometimes I don't even need my boots because the kit man have got it, and I'll just train and I'll go home. As a coach or a manager, you've got to think about, well, you've got to contact everyone, speak to the physio, who's fit for the session. What is our session design? What are we going after? Do we need to look at clips? Right, I need to watch it. I need to speak to the analyst. How are we setting up? I need to speak to players. This player's upset. He's not been playing. This player's come back from injury. I need to speak to the board. I need to speak to the chairman. He wants to know why we didn't win on the weekend. I need to deal with fans. Fans are not happy because we didn't win, or they want to come talk to you because you're doing so well that everyone's excited and you want to give them your time. So you've got to deal with everything from the board down to the fans and everything in between. And then the same as players, you miss family events. You can only go on holiday certain time of the year. So you got all the same as players plus more. And I think people don't quite grasp that until they're in it.
People listening to this might be like, yeah, but Pat, he's the full-time manager of Poole Town. Do you have other jobs, or is this your full-time job?
No, so I also coach and teach at Portsmouth College. So I coach the first team there alongside another coach, and then I teach the sport course there as well. So you've obviously then got limited time to then plan everything. You're doing it outside of that job. You're doing everything alongside.
So someone listening to this would be like, oh my God, he's got to deal with all of that, and it's not even his full-time job. Why do you coach?
Because I love it, because I love football, because I love positively impacting other people, making them stay in love or fall in love with football because of the experience I've given them. And I think that's a real motivating factor for me. And that's what I've always done and always loved is football, and I want to stay in the game. And I think this is my best avenue to do so.
What's the biggest challenge that you've had as a football manager?
The biggest challenge would be, so we moved from Gosport Borough to Poole Town last year. Poole Town were 18th in the league, hadn't won a game in 13 games. In our first 6 games, we didn't win a game. We didn't score a goal. We lost 1-0 6 times in a row. Any way you can imagine, we lost 1-0 own goal last minute. And as new managers coming into a new club, there's a lot of questions being asked. And it was a really difficult time. I found it really, really hard. Like you said about sleepless nights. Well, I couldn't remember sleeping very well for a long time. So that was my biggest challenge, was how do we'd done well at Gosport. You're coming into a new club, you're almost starting fresh. How do you then connect the fans, the club, the players who are feeling so negatively? How do you connect them and start to think positively? And I think it took time, but for me, it was about staying true to our principles, to our processes, not letting that affect you. And over time, I think it then came to fruition. All of the things we'd done previously that had worked for us, we stuck to that. And I think just being, and this same for players, I think being mentally resilient is probably the biggest tool you can have.
How do you? I'm interested to know about the players at your level. Like, are they like what is the mission? Because is the mission that the players at your team want to go to like a conference up and get paid more? Is the mission of the club and the players that they just want to kind of be content, be happy, and pick up a bill to pay their mortgage off? Is it that players are just coming because they like the locker room and the community? Like, is there a mix of missions, or like?
Yeah, there's definitely a mix. I think probably at any level there's a mix. So you're going to get players that are slightly older.
So how do you set your goals at the start of the season then?
Well, I think you've got to understand the individuals, and when you speak to them individually, you figure out what it is they're trying to get out of it. But I think your goals have to be aligned definitely between the owners, the people that are putting the money in, the fans, what are they expecting? What are you expecting of yourselves? And what do the players want to do? And you have to find a way to understand all of that and align a mission together that everyone can go towards. But I think in terms of a coach and a manager, you have to work individually on people's motivations because they've got different motivations. So if it's a younger player who wants to do well, you've probably got to spend more time in training, working on him, improving him, showing him clips because he wants to go to a higher level. But we've had players who are coming towards the end of their career who couldn't care about any of that. So you might just leave them alone, let them enjoy it, give them whatever information you feel like they need. But actually, they're quite experienced. They know what they're doing. So you give them less not necessarily less time, but less effort because they want to.
That's man management.
Yeah, and they want to pick up a bit of money. They don't want to be at training for too long. They don't want to see extra clips because they got kids. They got a wife at home that they want to get home to. but you might have a 21-year-old who wants to stay there till 10 p.m. at night,
Interesting.
shooting, finishing, looking at clips, improving himself. So it's understanding the different motivations of different individuals.
Interesting. Okay. And then, Pat, we just got a quick fire round. So
Yeah.
short answers only.
Yeah.
Okay. Five quick fire questions. What is the biggest mistake that young players make at trials?
Trying to over impress.
What's one thing you wish every player understood about coaches?
They only do what's best for you.
That's a good one. Who's the toughest opponent or team that you've managed against?
Portsmouth FC, managed by John Mousinho.
What's more important in non-league, talent or attitude?
Attitude at any level.
True. And then what's one piece of advice you'd give to yourself when you were 18?
It would be have more mental resilience, stick things out.
Good. Pat, just finally, for a lot of players that are listening to this, I feel like your career has been pretty inspirational in the fact that you've obviously had challenges. You've tried to be a professional. You've got paid a lot of money to play football, and you've been in that environment. You're still involved in football at a top level, coaching. Why do you think that you've been successful in football?
Because I think that my upbringing instilled a lot of discipline, hard work into me from a young age. I think I've always been taught to work hard and focus on whatever it is. And for me, it's been football. And I think I've always done that, whatever I've done. If I was a player, I was always doing more at the gym. I was always doing extra training. As a coach, I've always done more. I've spent hours planning sessions. I've tried to be as detailed as I can. I've watched a lot of games. I've gone out and done voluntary coaching. I've gone and spoken to coaches, asked to meet up. I just feel like I've always worked hard as a minimum. And I think if you do that, then you'll get to where you deserve.
The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Definitely.
Perfect. Guys, we'll tag Pat's Instagram. You heard it here. If you message him on WhatsApp, he'll give you a trial. So good luck. But no, guys, if you learned anything today or there was a piece of information that stuck with you, or you're like, wow, that really made sense, send him a message and say thank you. But yeah, Pat, really appreciate your time. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Perfect.